Hello, welcome to another VBA tutorial. In this video we are going to talk about functions and how to use them in VBA and make your custom functions. As always, you can check out the code in the description below. First of all, what is a function in VBA or in Excel? A function, whenever you're in Excel and you type equals and then you type something like that, you just use the function. So if we stick in some numbers here, what we've done is we have a function name and then we stuck in some parameters into the function. And that's all it is to it, really. In this case, it gives us a sum of the parameter 3, 4, and 5. And that's 12. So if we want to make a custom function in VBA or to use it on the back end, how do we do that? Here's our example. Our first example is the isSmaller function. And all we're going to do is output is a number smaller than another number. Let's look at this in Excel first, and then we'll come back. So I type isSmaller, and I stick in a number, 4, 5, and it should say that 4 is smaller. Yeah, it does that. Okay, so what is it doing? We have the name of the function. We have the keyword to tell Excel that we're using a function. And we have our parameter number 1 and a parameter number 2. So here's the parameters that we just saw, and here's the name of the function, and we also have to declare this as a type, in this case a type integer. Then we just have our simple operation. What we say is a number smaller than another, and we declare is smaller as something. So if you've ever used Java, and you might have something like a return statement, we don't have that in VBA. Instead, we just declare the function as a variable. So that's a little bit different, and it's really handy. So that's really all there is to it for the basic part. Once you have all those steps, you've made a custom function. You can use functions within subs, and here we have a sub that will just test our function. I ask the user to enter in their numbers, and then I just output the smaller of the number. And to do that, I use this little statement here, isSmaller, number 1, number 2. So this is just what we saw in Excel, where we have the name of the function, and then we stick in parameter 1 and parameter 2. So if we run this, press F5, enter the first number, 7, enter the second number, 8. The smaller of 7 and 8 is 7. So that's really all there is to it for the most part with functions. You just have to do those steps there. There's a nice little thing in Excel that not so much on the back end, but it's handy when you're in Excel, called the optional keyword. And the word optional allows you to have a parameter that you could use or you might not want to use. In this case, all I'm doing is I'm going to decide in the function, is a number bigger than another number? And then I have this optional parameter that says if we use this parameter and we make it equal to true, then instead of saying 1 is larger, we just say Chuck Norris is the toughest. Let me show you in Excel, and then it'll make sense. So I type in is tough. Who is the toughest? Is it 6, 5? Is it 6? And I could just leave this as is, and it'll give us the biggest number, which in this case is 6. Or I can do who is the toughest. I can do 6, 5, 6, and then I can add in a third parameter because that's our optional parameter. And in this case, I'm going to say true now. So see, that's the only difference between having an optional parameter and a non-optional parameter, is one you have to put the answer and one you don't. So if I enter, I get Chuck Norris is the toughest. Notice it's almost the same, just I stuck in a third parameter there, and I used the keyword optional. And you don't have to use booleans. You can make this another integer or whatever you like. Also notice that I used the keyword variance for the type of this function variable, because I didn't know, am I going to be outputting a integer or am I going to be outputting a string? I didn't know, so I used variant. So just to sum and wrap all of this up again, let's just recap everything. A function is actually a variable that can be used. You stick in parameters, and then you return the variable in the function. The function you can also use in Excel. In order to call a function, you use a statement similar to this with the name of the function and the parameters that you're going to be sticking into it. And this is essentially a variable. And finally, you can have an optional parameter in your functions, and you do that just by putting the keyword optional before the variable. And that's it. Hope this was helpful. We'll see you next time.